LSU has been dealt a disappointing blow. Defensive end Gabe Reliford out for the season. What does it mean? How do they replace him? We're talking about it. Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked On LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked On LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We are free, available wherever you get great podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. And as always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Brian Kelly announced on his radio show the unfortunate news that defensive end Gabe Reliford, torn rotator cuff. He will miss the remainder of the season. So I want to take this opportunity today to talk about what they're losing in Reliford and who the options they have to replace Gabe Reliford for the remainder of this season. And that's a pretty key position, as you're going to hear and we discuss. So I'm going to play for you what Brian Kelly said on his radio show. But I want to go back first to Monday. So this is when Brian Kelly had his media availability on Monday. This is where they still hadn't found out exactly the severity of Reliford's injury. But listen to the end of this cut where he talks about the importance of this decision.
Gabe Reliford has a subluxation of his shoulder, so he is out this week, and then we will determine whether surgery is necessary or he can play with it. We certainly want to respect the fact that in this situation, a defensive lineman, you want to make sure he's healthy and pass rush. And if he can't compete at the level he needs to, then we'll look at the options that are in front of us, and surgery could be an option.
So Brian Kelly knew on Monday surgery could have been an option, but the key was whether or not Reliford would be able to be effective in pass rush. I'll remind you, a year ago, Jordan Gilbert had a dislocated shoulder issue that was chronic. He played with a harness and basically was playing with one arm, but they figured he was better just trying to manage it and get through the season, having the surgery after the season. So sometimes you weigh those decisions, and sometimes we see guys play with torn ligaments or whatever the case may be, or a torn rotator cuff like Reliford has. But if they didn't feel like he was going to be effective in pass rush, then they would shut him down. And ultimately, that's the decision they made. And that's the announcement Brian Kelly made on his radio show on Thursday night, announcing that Reliford will miss the season. But in this cut, he also makes a very important distinction of how different this would be this year as opposed to how it would have been a season ago if this had happened.
Unfortunately, he's out for the season. He has a torn rotator cuff, so he'll have surgery next week. And, that's, generally 4 to 6 months. If you look at it on the long end, he'll be back for spring ball. So certainly disappointed for him, feel for him, because he's worked so hard to be in that. But, the next man up is good. And look, we're very blessed at that position to have, 3 outstanding fifth-year seniors at that position. Jamari Butler, obviously, Jack Pyburn, and Patrick Payton. All 3 of those guys have been really, really outstanding for us all year. Now there'll be a rotation for that 4 slot. Dylan Carpenter played a lot, a local guy who was really solid for us. Kolaj Cobbins, another local player from New Orleans, now gets an opportunity. And Damien Shanklin, as you know, who had, as a true freshman, had 2 sacks in the game. He'll have an opportunity. So that 4th player for us, that's the depth of a roster, right? If we lost to Gabe Reliford last year, who was a starter for us, think of if you lose, your starting defensive end last year, you're in trouble. That guy is really not going to give you the same kind of play. But this year is a whole different roster, and we'll be able to manage as our 4th guy. Yeah, unfortunately, he's out for the season. He has a torn rotator cuff.
So I think that is so important, a distinction there that Kelly made. So let me illustrate that. Okay, I want to first talk about Reliford, who has been outstanding. 6'3", 265, showed up as a freshman from Evangel, played in all 13 games a year ago, and some of that was out of necessity, but another part of that was he was just ready to roll. Remember, a season ago in the second game, you lost Jacobian Guillory to a torn Achilles. And as a result of that, Parrish Shand had to kick inside from end to play defensive tackle. So that left you really thin at defensive end. You basically had Braden Swinson and Savion Jones. Just to illustrate that a step further, In 13 games, Braden Swinson and Savion Jones each played identical 637 snaps. 637 snaps. Both of them played the identical number of snaps. Reliford was next at 153. And then Deshaun Womack at 100. The only other ends that took reps for you a year ago. Dylan Carpenter played in 6 games and played 53 snaps. Kolaj Cobbins played 7 snaps in 1 game. And CJ Jackson played 3 snaps in 1 game. So you can understand how much was put on Savion Jones and Braden Swinson a year ago. They never came off the field. I shouldn't say never, but it was rare that they came off the field. It was about maybe 1 out of 5 drives that you might have seen Reliford or Deshaun Womack on the field. By contrast, look at this season and how freely LSU has been able to rotate at that defensive end spot so far this year. When we look just by snap counts, Peyton and Pyburn obviously are leading the way. Patrick Peyton, 133 snaps. Jack Pyburn, 130 snaps. But Jamari Butler's played 92 snaps, and Reliford's played 85. So it's not exactly a 50-50 split, but it is close to that through 4 games for those guys. And obviously, had Reliford not been injured, he would have been in the same snap count as Jamari Butler. So all that to say, you have at least a deeper rotation already this year, even without Reliford, because of Butler. You've got 2 frontline guys that are fantastic in Peyton and Pyburn. You've got Butler, who's a 5th-year player who gives you great depth and experience. And you had Reliford there as well. And I'll also commend Gabe Reliford because he would have been a guy this year in line to be a starter after a season ago. But LSU went and added 3 veteran players via the portal. And instead of pouting and not having his way, he worked really hard and worked himself into this rotation. So what you've seen actually, like if we look at Pro Football Focus grades, for example, the 2 highest rated defensive ends on Pro Football Focus from LSU are Jamari Butler at a 75.8 and Gabe Reliford is at a 73.6. The 2 backups are your higher rated players. Peyton is at a 67.1, Pyburn at a 64.7. Now, Pyburn's ding because his tackling grade is a 30, which is weird because I don't think I've noticed Jack Pyburn not being able to tackle well. But all that to say, I think the reason that you've seen that is when an offensive line doesn't get the sub, LSU is bringing in fresh bodies in Butler and Reliford who are really good players, and they're fresh. And so they're coming in against a tired offensive line after Peyton and Pyburn have been doing their work, and boom, they've played really well. So you remove Gabe Reliford from that equation now, and you've got 4 options behind them. Dylan Carpenter, Kolaj Cobbins, CJ Jackson, and Damien Shanklin. So what I want to do is step aside very briefly. I want to come back. I want to give you sort of the Cliff's Notes on those guys and what you need to know about each of the 4 of them and how they may factor into this equation. So we'll do that as we continue here. Locked on LSU, your team every day. You can just move through life, or you can find the things that move you. It's your choice. You can choose to get out there, choose your people. You can choose to go for it. Like really go for it. Just choose to do something that moves you. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. Mazda, move and be moved. Today's show is also brought to you by DoorDash. Remember, it's almost the weekend, so it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. So let's break it down. For the LSU Tigers, how about Juwan Johnson? 2 rushing touchdowns. He delivered in a big way. Part of LSU's 8 consecutive touchdown drives. And just like Johnson delivered for the Tigers, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season long, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day. Only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. And finally, we're brought to you by 5 Hour Energy, where caffeine just got a flavor upgrade. 5 Hour Energy shots deliver tasty caffeine in 17 bold flavors. Each 2-ounce shot packs the caffeine of a premium 12-ounce cup of coffee. plus B vitamins and nutrients with zero sugar and zero crashes. And what I love the most is how portable they are. It's big taste in a tiny shot that you can take anywhere and get the boost when you need it. My personal favorite is the extra strength grape. Find your personal favorite today. Enough with boring, flavorless caffeine. It's time to give your caffeine a flavor upgrade with 5-hour energy shots. Get the favorites you love or be bold and try something new in store and online at 5hourenergy.com or at Amazon today. So Brian Kelly mentioned there are 4 players that'll be vying for the reps that are now vacated by Gabe Reliford having that season-ending surgery. Dylan Carpenter, Kolaj Cobbins, CJ Jackson, and Damien Shanklin. And each of those are in sort of different phases of their career. So let's start with Dylan Carpenter, who's the first guy that Brian Kelly mentioned, and a guy who throughout his career now as a redshirt sophomore, and he's from Santa Maria nearby, and as a redshirt sophomore, he's in his 3rd collegiate season. And is 6'4", 255, so good size, about the same size as Reliford. Reliford may have about 10 pounds on him, but Reliford's listed at 6'3" and at 6'3", 265. Carpenter's 6'4", 255. But Carpenter's a guy who has bided his time. And that's another guy who, when LSU went into the portal this year and added 3 defensive ends, it could have been really easy for Dylan Carpenter to say, you know what? I'm going to go in the portal and I'm going to go find somewhere where in my 3rd year I can get on the field. But instead, he stayed. And even though he's sort of the 5th man in this rotation, knew he was 1 play away from being called upon. And that's kind of the issue now here for Dylan Carpenter. So Carpenter in his LSU career has played in 12 games. He's made just 7 tackles, but is a guy who now is finally going to be getting an opportunity to play even more. He played 3 games as a freshman, 7 games a year ago, and so far he's played in 2 games this year. So over 3 seasons, 12 games played, just 7 tackles for Dylan Carpenter. But again, a real opportunity for the redshirt freshman from Santa Maria, the redshirt sophomore from Santa Maria. You got 2 redshirt freshmen on the roster that could be vying for playing time. Kolaj Cobbins and CJ Jackson. Now, I think Kolaj Cobbins is the most fascinating variable here for LSU. A year ago, and if you followed all of our practice reports from a season ago, you heard me rave about Kolaj Cobbins in the pass rush drill. And Cobbins showed up at LSU light. When he was an all-state player at Destrehan and a really good defensive player. But he showed up at LSU. When he signed out of Destrehan, he was 6'1.5", 204. Listen to me. 6'1.5", 204. Kolaj Cobbins right now is 6'3", 238. So you're talking about a guy that's gained 34 pounds since he signed with LSU and gained about 1.5 inches. So he has physically transformed his body. But a year ago in fall camp, where Kolaj Cobbins made his biggest impact was time and again in the pass rush drill, he was hell on wheels coming off the edge. He has got a super fast, quick step. He may not be ready to set the edge as a really good run defender, like as strong as Jack Pyburn is. But as a guy in 3rd down pass rush situations or in certain like cheetah packages, if Blake Baker wants to use that, Cobbins could be a really interesting option. He's just played in 4 games. He's only made 3 tackles. So again, light on experience, but that's a very interesting prospect who is transforming his body and is going to be called upon to take more snaps this year. He wears number 48. Keep an eye on Kolaj Cobbins, especially potentially in pass rush situations. Another redshirt freshman is CJ Jackson. Now, he's built in a different mold from Cobbins. Jackson physically looks a lot like Dylan Carpenter. 6'4", 250. Remember, we told you Carpenter, 6'4", 255. So these guys are very similar. Jackson's out of Tucker High School in Atlanta, in the Atlanta area. Now 4 games into his 2nd season. He's only played in 2 games. Didn't play a year ago. Jackson, he's played in 2 games this year. So this is a guy, wears number 14, another guy that has forgive me, he played in 1 game a year ago. 1 game a year ago, 1 game this year, has yet to record a statistic. But again, a guy who's got good size, certainly was a very highly rated prospect when he signed with LSU, just buried in a log jam of depth at that position, which was, the depth for these young guys became even more problematic when they added the 3 veterans. Now, it makes LSU great this year, but it meant all these young guys were going to have to wait their turn. Well, now they're all going to have an opportunity to go compete for reps. And then maybe another really interesting one is the true freshman who we all saw on display on Saturday, and that's Damien Shanklin. Now, Shanklin, when you go and look at the defensive end group, Damien Shanklin is part of like the all-airport team. He's one of those guys you want getting off the bus first. He is a true freshman who, out of Indianapolis, he is 6'5", 260 pounds. So remember, I told you, Reliford here as a sophomore is 6'3", 265. Shanklin's 6'5", 260. And he fills out the uniform. He wears number 17. He looks awesome. And Shanklin has only played in one game. This past weekend against Southeastern Louisiana was the first action Damien Shanklin saw, and he came up with 2 sacks in the second half. I mean, you saw him pop. So now one of them was really impressive where he was going to the ground and reached out and grabbed the quarterback's foot and tripped him up. But I mean, not a bad way to play your first game, your first recorded statistics, and to make that kind of an impact. So you have 4 options, all with very different skill sets. Again, Dylan Carpenter is more of the bigger, set the edge defender, 6'4", 250, third-year player. Cobbins, a little bit smaller, super fast off the edge. Jackson, more mirrors Dylan Carpenter as far as size and skill set, just hasn't played much, only 2 games. And then Shanklin is the one with the super high ceiling, 6'5", 260, explosive, chiseled out of stone. Like, he looks the part of a guy who's going to be a future star for LSU. But those are the 4 guys, and it'll be interesting to see how Kevin Peoples starts to use them and utilize them, and how they may all fit with their specific skill sets in Blake Baker's defense. Again, if you're just looking to replace Reliford and Reliford's snap count skill set, like looking for a carbon copy, then Dylan Carpenter is probably the most obvious choice. He's a third-year player. He's physically more developed. He's been in the system. He's a strong guy that can set the edge and can pass rush a little bit as well. But if you're looking for the explosive fast guy, Cobbins, Shanklin could be the answer there. Certainly the super high ceiling, as we mentioned, would be Damien Shanklin, number 17. So we'll come back, on Monday after LSU plays Ole Miss, and we'll look at PFF, and we'll look at the snap counts and how they all graded out and where they lined up, and we'll have a much better sense of what LSU might be looking to do moving forward. But my guess is that going into this game against Ole Miss, that Blake Baker and Kevin Peoples are going to lean on the experience with Dylan Carpenter. But if they need pass rush, you got a couple of options there as well. Certainly very disappointing for Gabe Reliford after a fantastic offseason, a really solid freshman year, fantastic offseason where he developed into a really, really solid player for LSU and maybe an emerging star. So his sophomore season is cut down here, just 4 games in. The benefit is that it's only 4 games in. He does maintain the opportunity for a redshirt year. Brian Kelly said 4 to 6 months out from surgery. I mean, they should have him ready to go in time for spring ball. That would mean January, February. He should be about ready to roll. So by the time you get to March and April for spring, Gabe Reliford should be good to go then, and hopefully a fantastic third year in Baton Rouge where he can stay healthy. But in the meantime, Tigers got to get some productivity and replace a really effective end and a guy who was an emerging star. But another young guy will have to step up in the Gabe Reliford's role. We'll start to get those answers on Saturday when LSU plays Ole Miss. Hey, thanks so much for making us your first listen. If you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And let a friend know if they love the Tigers. We got you here every single day for Locked on LSU, your team every day.